The Three Gorges Dam in China is the biggest hydroelectric facility on Earth. It cost $31 billion to build and holds a reservoir so vast that some say it even slows the planet's spin. However, there is real worry about whether it can stay safe in extreme weather. Over 400 million people live downstream, and major cities rely on the dam's stability. Experts debate the risks posed by poor materials, shifting ground, and changing climates. In this video, we will look at how the dam came to be, what challenges it faces, and the worst-case scenarios if it fails. Let's see what the future might hold for this engineering giant. For centuries, China has used dams to handle both power needs and flood control. Many earlier dams gave out before reaching their design lifespans, fueling anxiety about how well current ones can last. The Yangtze River, which the Three Gorges Dam now spans, has seen massive flooding throughout history. Some floods have caused thousands or even millions of deaths. That grim record created pressure to find a permanent solution. Talk of building a huge dam on the Yangtze took root in the early 20th century. The final plan only began to shape up in the late 1900s, with official work starting in 1994. Construction lasted more than a decade, ending in 2006. In that time, workers had to reroute parts of the river, pour millions of cubic meters of concrete, and coordinate a huge labor force. One of the largest human impacts involved moving 1.4 million people who once lived in the floodplain. Entire towns vanished under the rising waters, and residents had to rebuild their lives elsewhere. This mass relocation, along with earlier dam failures, made critics wonder if the Three Gorges Dam could create bigger problems than it solved. It now stands as China's most famous water project, but also one that stirs major debates about safety and long-term viability. They moved entire towns and changed the river's path, but was it truly worth the cost? People often debate if any dam can tame nature for good. Now it's time to look at the government's main aims and how they hope to solve age-old flood problems. China's official reasons for constructing the Three Gorges Dam were flood control, clean power generation, and better navigation along the Yangtze. Devastating floods had left behind huge losses in life and property for centuries. The government saw a grand dam as a way to hold back floodwaters during the monsoon season, saving downstream communities from repeated crises. At the same time, China needed more electricity for its surging economy. Coal had long been the main fuel, but that led to pollution and heavy greenhouse gas emissions. A giant hydroelectric station could feed the power grid without relying on coal. The finished dam was expected to pump out over 20 gigawatts of electricity, enough to supply millions of households. Additionally, because the Yangtze was notorious for fast currents and unpredictable flows, big ships often risked accidents. By smoothing the river's path and boosting water levels upstream, the dam made travel safer and more efficient. Cargo vessels could then move more goods in less time. The project also showcased China's ability to tackle large engineering tasks in a short span. Officials promised the dam would be a symbol of modern progress, cutting-edge technology, and national pride. Today, however, the conversation focuses not only on these original aims, but also on the significant drawbacks that have emerged. Grand promises of flood control and clean energy sound promising, but does reality match the plan? A behemoth like this can shape land and climate in ways we rarely see. The Three Gorges Dam stretches about 2.3 kilometers across and stands roughly 180 meters tall. The reservoir behind it extends more than 600 kilometers, submerging villages and farmland. Critics have pointed to stories of substandard materials in the cement. The region is near fault lines, so tremors add another level of risk. Any large quake could test the dam's resilience. Once the reservoir was filled, the local ecosystem changed forever. Species like the Chinese river dolphin and paddlefish faced extinction. Many areas near the reservoir began to see regular landslides and erosion. Silt that once flowed down the Yangtze now settles in the reservoir, affecting water flow and fish habitats. Some blame the dam for poor water quality due to industrial waste piling up in the slower-moving reservoir. A few years ago, images circulated online, appearing to show the dam's curved structure warping. Officials explained that minor shifts were within safe design limits. They described it as an elastic design feature. Independent hydrologists, however, questioned whether the changes pointed to deeper structural weaknesses. Government statements declared no real risk, but the online debate left many uneasy. The Three Gorges project is monitored by thousands of sensors meant to detect cracks, leaks, or other red flags. Supporters say these sensors have never triggered major alarms. Yet some experts argue that if the government chooses, it might hide or downplay negative findings. International geologists note that consistent heavy rains could push the dam to a stress point. While China has put forth routine inspections and maintenance as proof of safety, skeptics worry those efforts may not be enough if a truly severe weather event strikes. With millions of lives at stake, any gap between official claims and actual conditions is cause for global concern. How do officials address these alarms, and do they admit weaknesses or claim everything is under control? Time to see how the government defends its prized megaproject. Chinese authorities have repeatedly dismissed the notion that the Three Gorges Dam is in any real danger. Official announcements often highlight the dam's success in holding back water surges and generating large amounts of power. They stress the advanced engineering techniques used during its construction and the presence of ongoing reinforcement work. For example, the dam is said to have thousands of sensors installed within its concrete segments. These sensors reportedly track any sign of stress or movement, but the government rarely shares the raw data publicly. In times of severe floods, state media outlets make statements that the dam has passed all tests or that it can handle water flows beyond what was originally anticipated. Yet, when record flooding hits, local authorities sometimes open spillways, letting large volumes of water pour downstream. Critics see that as a sign that the dam cannot truly safeguard the region from extremes. Officials respond by claiming they must protect the dam first and foremost because a breach would be far worse than controlled flooding. Some scientists and activists who raised concerns about the dam in the past faced censorship. There were cases of environmental researchers losing their positions or being detained. This climate leads many to wonder how fully the real facts can reach the public. The question remains whether official data on water levels, structural shifts, and potential quake threats is accurate or filtered. This lack of transparency fuels suspicion. International voices sometimes weigh in, but the Chinese government maintains that the Three Gorges project is safe. They call outside worries unfounded or misguided. Despite these assurances, stories of cracks, warping images, and forced water releases keep the debate alive. Yet real floods have tested the dam's claims, revealing painful truths for those downstream. So let's get a notch and see what happened during past disasters. Severe rain events in 2020 and 2024 put the Three Gorges Dam to a major test. The idea was that this dam would tame the unruly Yangtze during monsoon rains. Instead, critics say it fell short of that goal. In 2020, rainfall hit levels not seen in decades. The authorities partially opened the sluice gates to protect the dam from overload. This move sent floodwaters barreling downstream, contributing to major damage in regions that had hoped for protection. Dozens died or went missing. Streets in many cities turned into raging canals. Similar scenes played out again in 2024. Officials argue that without the dam, floods would have been worse. Still, families who lost homes see it differently. They wonder why so much money was spent on a structure that fails to spare them from chaos. Experts also point out that the reservoir's capacity cannot handle truly historic rainfall. The original promise of near-complete flood control may not hold up in the face of today's changing climate patterns. Monsoon periods could intensify, meaning more water than the dam was designed to manage. This shortfall makes people question whether the Three Gorges Dam is fulfilling its mission. In the end, these violent monsoons reveal the dam's vulnerability, reminding everyone that even the biggest structures can be overwhelmed by nature. Promises of safety have been challenged by harsh monsoons. If the dam can't handle future storms, what could unfold for millions of people? If the Three Gorges Dam were to fail outright, a massive wave could rush downstream at terrifying speed. Experts estimate a wall of water, possibly 100 meters high, destroying everything in its path. Towns and farmland could be submerged in minutes. Major urban centers like Wuhan and even Shanghai might be at risk, though water levels would diminish with distance. The human toll could be unimaginable, and the shock waves would send China's economy reeling. A total collapse is deemed unlikely by many engineers, but partial breaks or cracks could still be devastating. If a slow leak forms, water might rise downstream over days. Another scenario is a forced, controlled release of vast amounts of water. Either way, farmland and smaller towns could see major flooding before any slow-moving crisis is resolved. Climate patterns can bring heavier rain to the Yangtze River basin. Silt also accumulates behind the dam, raising the water level and straining the structure. Each time a powerful monsoon season arrives, the question arises, can the dam handle the load without risking damage? Anxious residents worry about further forced relocations if deeper cracks appear. Over 1 million people have already left their old homes. Some wonder if they could be told to move again, especially if the dam's condition degrades. Such scenarios may sound grim, but they highlight what could happen if the dam meets conditions beyond its design limits. Officials continue to assure the public that these events remain low risk. But how does this translate into real-world dollars and global production? Stay connected to know how a crisis at the dam might damage China's core economic heart. The Yangtze River Basin supports roughly 40% of China's economy. It anchors manufacturing, shipping, and agriculture. If a breach occurred, the immediate effect would be power outages because the Three Gorges Dam is a key energy source. Factories might shut down, halting the production of goods shipped worldwide. Supply chains could suffer for months, fueling ripple effects on global trade. Huge cities like Wuhan and Shanghai rely on stable water management for daily life and commerce. Flooding could stall local industries and damage roads, trains, and ports. Since China stands at the heart of many global markets, disruptions might spread internationally. Electronic components, medical supplies, and countless other items could see shortages or delivery delays. History shows that big catastrophes in China often lead to food shortages if farmland is destroyed. The Yangtze region grows rice and other staples for millions. A large flood wave might ruin crops, forcing the government to import more grain. In a worst-case scenario, entire provinces could face resource crises, piling on to the economic damage. Past Chinese disasters have shown that recovery can span years. If the largest dam in the world broke, the economic strain would likely be on a scale never witnessed before. If the dam falters, it's not just China that feels the shock. Let's find solutions or warning signs that can help. China's strategy has included constant maintenance, thorough monitoring, and sensor-based tracking of water pressure and concrete integrity. In theory, this helps detect cracks long before they become serious. Some hydrologists say that means a sudden collapse is highly unlikely. They believe the dam's segmented design can handle strong forces and that controlled releases will prevent a catastrophic buildup of water. Others are less sure. They point out that frequent heavy rains push the dam closer to its limits each year. Land erosion and silt accumulation raise new questions. Earthquakes remain a possibility in this fault-prone region. Another concern is how official data is managed. Without full transparency, observers can only guess at the real numbers. If the government censors negative findings, any small issue could grow unchecked. Climate experts also warn that extreme weather events are growing more common. That might force the Three Gorges Dam to shoulder water flows far beyond what designers expected in the 1990s. Looking ahead, advanced engineering or better downstream systems might be needed to reduce stress on the dam. For now, watchers around the globe follow each flood season, anxious to see if the dam's promises hold up. Thank you for joining us for this look at the Three Gorges Dam. We want to hear from you. Do you think this $31 billion marvel can hold strong against the forces of nature, or are the risks too big to ignore? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed today's story, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep looks into global megaprojects. We appreciate your support.